Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Happiness in Higher Ed podcast. My name is John Hill. I use he, him pronouns, and this is episode 13. Yes, 13. So today, my guest is Danielle Sharpe. And before I introduce her, I will go ahead and read our mission statement. So, in a world that can be engulfed in darkness, we must shine bright and lead the charge for a better future. As we continue to shape and challenge emerging adults' minds, it is also our duty to reflect and remember what makes us happy and why we continue to do the work that we do. So, without further notice, here we go. This is Danielle Sharpe. Danielle Sharpe currently works as an academic advisor at Boise State University, specifically advising psychology majors and minors in their first 57 credits. Danielle is originally from the Chicago suburbs and previously graduated with her BA in communication from the University of Illinois before getting her master's in college student personnel from Western Illinois University and moving to Boise, Idaho. Danielle is passionate about helping students plan and navigate through their college experience in the form of academic advising and coaching. Would you like to add anything or say anything else, Danielle?
I don't think so. I think that covers it.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we will just roll right into the questions. So first question I got for you is, what was the reason you started to pursue a career in higher education?
Yeah, well, as those who know me, and you may have guessed, I've always been a planner.
Understatement.
Yeah.
Understatement.
Exactly. But always, not even just like in my master's program where we met, but like my whole life, always been a planner. So when I got to high school, you actually get to like pick some of the order of your classes and some of your electives and those sorts of things. So I always started like, I loved making class schedules. And then I even like my first semester of college, like planned a whole like 4-year course plan like on my own for college, and I ended up transferring a bunch, and so making different like, oh, if I went to this school would take these classes, and like lots of investigation on my own, and helping other friends with like their class schedules. It's something I really enjoyed. And then I also then met, because I transferred so many times, I met with like a lot of academic advisors, because although I did a lot of it on my own, I still like wanted help from like the experts, right? And through those conversations, I really learned that academic advising isn't just, here's your schedule of classes, like here you go. There's so much more to it. And so I just kind of like my junior year of college, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And I had no experience working in higher ed though. Like I had nothing. And I was like, I'm going to be applying to grad programs like in the fall of my senior year. Oh my gosh. So I asked my friends, I had a couple of friends that worked for the university where I went to my undergrad, and I said, hey, can anyone hire me? Like, can anyone refer me? So I ended up working in disability resources at University of Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely loved it. Just like kind of like reaffirmed that this is like something I'm really excited about and really want to do. I did undergraduate research, like just trying to like get involved as much as I can. And then it just kind of like, yeah, reaffirm that's what I want to do. Like I'm really passionate about helping others, and in advising it, to use like a lot of my favorite skills of like organization, planning, communication, time management. I work independently, but I'm on usually a team with other advisors. So lots of people to mentor me as I like learn in the field. And like I'm mentoring new advisors right now. So I really like all kinds of things related to advising. And that's really like why I kind of started down this path and had never really looked back.
Got you. Nice. So it sounds like just a lot, I guess, is the best way to do it. So you specifically said that you'd worked in disability resources, correct? Mm-hmm. Now, are those skills that you learned there, were they transferable into academic advising?
Yeah, I loved disability resources. I actually, when I was interviewing for grad programs, I interviewed for other positions in that area as well. And like when I looked for jobs, I would definitely work in disability resources again. I think a lot of the skills are transferable. You're still working with students, still helping them. It's less of at least what I did it in my other role, but it's less of like the planning and kind of time management piece. I worked specifically with like transportation for disability resources, so it was some coordination of like when of the buses is going to get to this building in there, but it wasn't as much then actually with the students. It was kind of more behind the scenes. So I really do enjoy like working one-on-one with students. So I'd say like some of the skills are transferable. It helps like my experience to be able to apply to grad school, and I love the experience, but definitely different from what I do. And I know there's tons of different roles that people can have within disability resources as like a functional area. So
Got you. Okay. The only reason why I ask is because I know that I've only ever known you as an academic advisor, and I like you had mentioned that planning, just it's you to a T. So it just seems a little different because like working not really working in the DRC, but at Western, like being a part of some of those processes and like just seeing how they operate, that just is different than an academic advisor. So I was just curious what that looked like for you. So yeah, thank you. All right. So the next question that I have for you is, what makes you happy? Thinking about one thing from higher ed and then one personal thing.
yeah, so the personal one, it won't surprise you that like I'm good at planning and it makes me really happy. So like I love planning in all aspects of my life, whether it is like working with students in planning or planning for a trip. I love like travel. I think that probably would be like, if it wasn't planning as an answer, it would be just traveling. I love exploring different places, seeing like what's around and meeting new people, trying new foods, and going to like on cool hikes and breweries and like doing all the things. So I definitely love that personally. And then part of higher ed too, like a benefit of it is that it allows me to travel more. So I think that's like a really cool piece of it too. And then for higher ed, I would say my favorite part of higher ed, I think, yeah, I know this happiness in higher ed. This is like the number one question I should have had ready to go. No, I think that helping students, and I know this sounds like, I was trying to think of something not as cliche as what I had prepared, but it's really true that I love helping students. I love making a difference and like explaining something if they don't know a process or kind of like the way things go. I love like making graduation plans with them. They get so excited to figure out, oh no, when can I graduate? What classes will I take next semester? Referring them to different resources. Academic advising, we kind of refer to ourselves commonly as like gatekeepers because, or like, the central, like we're usually the first person they really get to know when they're coming into campus. So like right now I'm working with so many students for new student orientation, and I'm like the first real professional that, on campus that they've interacted with. They maybe talked with orientation leaders, and those are great. Those are students and they're awesome. But otherwise, like I'm the main person. So I field a lot of questions about financial aid, scholarships, disability resources, educational access center, all the different questions, housing and residence life that they might have. So I love referring them to different like resources on campus, but also like helping them in any way that they need it, and helping them think about different things too, like with advising. So I do psychology majors, but if someone tells me, okay, well, I want to be a marriage and family therapist. Oh, well, awesome. We have this family studies minor and they have no idea. And that completely aligns with like their goals and what they're excited about. Or just helping them to explore if like they have no idea what they want to do with psychology. I love helping them think about all the different things that they can do, because psych is such a nice, like broad, we have so many different fields that you can go into with that. So I love helping them. So that was like 7 answers to your question, but like,
no, that's totally fine. Cause I think it highlights that you love your job. I mean, to a T. But there is one thing that came from that, what you were saying specifically is, do you think that it was challenging? Because you're going into your second year as being an academic advisor. And do you think that it was challenging when you first started out, being like needed to have a plethora of resources or like to know what to do? Because like this time last year, well, a little bit like 3 months ago, whatever, 2 months ago, when you first originally started and having to know like the different resources of like the Disability Resource Center, housing questions, like to answer those questions for students, do you think that was a little bit of a challenge?
I think if I hadn't had the experience that I did at Western Illinois, like doing the advising, kind of knowing that that's the information I need to know, or even I did an internship at CU Boulder. So I kind of like, and I was only there for like 10 weeks. So I had to learn all that stuff really quickly and like be able to help students really quickly. And so I think because I know it's something I need to be prepared for, like those are the types of questions that I get. I think it was, something that I really focused on learning right away, because I wouldn't want to start a conversation with a student and they say, oh, I'm on this scholarship, like, what does this mean? Do I have to take a certain class with it? Or, where do I go if I need accommodations? Like, I would want to be able to help answer those questions, even if I can't answer them, help point them in the right direction. So definitely just being as prepared as possible for all of that.
Got you. Going right back to that planner mentality. Because I worked our help desk for our new student family programs, and I've been at A&M for in 3 days. It'll be 10 months. And honestly, I couldn't tell you if a student asked me a question about something specific. I wouldn't really necessarily know. So I commend you and props to you. I'll give you a nice little clap for that, because that's probably a ton of information. You were probably in training for a little bit and then bam, right into it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I have like I think my biggest tool, especially since I've only ever worked remotely in my role, and I've been here about 16 months, something like that, whenever we graduated since then. And so 2020.
The days just keep going by at this point.
It's already August. I'm like, what is happening? So yeah, I mean, I have just like a slew of bookmarks. Like, so on Zoom, like I have so many things bookmarked, like all of the popular minors and majors, certificate programs, all the different resources. I have like maybe 20 resources all saved. And then I have a whole how-to section, how to register, how to send ACT scores, how to send SAT scores, how to send transcripts, and even how to send transcripts from like the popular community college. And that's not something I would have known right away, but like I got that question so many times, like, how do I send my transcripts from College of Western Idaho, which is our local community college? I should have that bookmarked. So many students ask me. So now if I know that they have transcripts from there and they're not on file, I'll send them a follow-up link. So yeah, resources are like huge. And so I just try to, if a lot of people ask for something, then I just start bookmarking it, and I have lots of folders of bookmarks for that sort of thing.
I'm pretty sure that if I was to actually see your homepage of all those bookmarks, I would probably be scared. And I bet it's just you're ready. You're like cracking your knuckles, ready to do this. So that's awesome. That's awesome to hear, and it doesn't surprise me in a great way. So the next question that I have for you is, what keeps you resilient in the face of some of the challenges you face, whether that be budget cuts, stress from the pandemic, anything?
Yeah, well, I'll keep it real. So, I mean, part of that is I've only worked remotely since I've started at Boise State. It's been well over a year, and only ever worked remotely. I love working remotely. So that's been like good, but I've still felt like I've gotten to build connections with people in my office. So that's been less of like a resiliency factor for me, I guess, than just the whole like my office situation, which has been a lot of turnover. So when they left in March of 2020 for COVID, there was a staff that was there. Everyone that's coming back once we return on campus later this month, none of those people are coming back. So director, admin, all the other advisors are gone. So it's a completely turned over staff. And I think that makes it really tough because I've been here the longest now, and I haven't been here very long at all. And so I love training people. I love creating like programs and just helping people. And so, because a lot of what I do in advising is teaching too, like I'm teaching students how to read their audit academic requirements, or teaching them like the requirements for their major. And so that's a lot of what I'm then training other advisors on too, just in a more in-depth level. So I think just looking for positives, and instead of, oh, I've been through like 7 search committees this year and that's a lot of my time, or, oh, like they all start at different times and people quit and start at different times and after the same training like over and over again, like rather than thinking about the negatives, I really just try to look for the positives in things because I love training. I love helping people. And, so I just try to look for the positives. And I think too, like being willing to experience change is really important. I think it can be like when things are going well, it can be easy to say, oh, I want them to stay like this forever. Or even if they're like not going the best, it's like, oh, I don't want things to keep changing. But I think just being able or willing to experience that is really important, just wanting that, because things can always get better too. And so again, I'm just looking for the positives. And I'm always one too, when things are tough, to like voice my opinion, to ask questions, address concerns. And just have a voice. And I think that's important too, like to feel like you're being heard. And if you don't speak up, how are you heard if you don't speak up? And so I think that's important. So I would say that that's kind of all the ways that I helped be resilient in those sort of situations.
Got you. And something that you said specifically was about that always keeping like positive light on things and always like being positive. I know we had talked briefly about this beforehand, before we started the podcast, but do you think at a certain point that positivity, like it's like a tank and kind of like will eventually, with prolonged things like this, do you think that'll eventually go away? Or do you think that it's easy to maintain the positive side of things all the time? I know I'm putting you on the spot because we didn't I didn't say this is going to be a question, but I know that you had just mentioned that, and I know that we had talked about this beforehand. So
yeah, no, and I think it's unrealistic to think that you can always be positive, right? Because there's some days where it's just hard, like where you don't get up for a whole day because you're just at your desk working, or oh, this thing happens, and after all these other things just happen, like just one more thing on your plate, like and so I think the reframing for positivity really helps. But it sometimes it's also good to lean into like, this sucks right now, and this sucks, like what I mean, like, and that's just realistic sometimes too. I think it's important to process those feelings and things before hitting like a breaking point where you're just like, everything's great and like, wonderful rainbows. And then all of a sudden you just snap like, oh, actually it's horrible. Like, I think it's really important to process those things, like, look for a positive side of things, but not where you're like lying to yourself, and to, admit that things can suck and not think like all the time that every change is bad or that everything that happens is going to be the worst thing in the world. So I think there's like a good balance there, which I don't have like a perfect recipe for that, but I think it's important to weigh those things for sure.
Yeah, because something that I was thinking about is like, what is the fine line between something turning into toxic positivity, and like, is that more draining than just acknowledging that it sucks right now? This is kind of like a terrible moment. Like, let me get 24 hours to like process this, think about it, and then we'll bounce back, rather than just 24/7. It's all fine. Like you said, it's all rainbows and unicorns. So, but so yes, thank you for, I know I didn't tell you that I was going to ask that question, but thank you for answering that. So then one of the scheduled questions that I had for you, the next one is, what are some of the ways that you practice self-care to stay on your A game?
Yeah, so I try to be really intentional about not responding to student email. I know Juan has mentioned this in his podcast too, but I try to be really intentional about like not responding to emails past Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Like, I'll be honest that I still check my email every single day, but I will just do that for my own like piece of like, I don't want to walk in Monday morning and have 47 emails and it's all like, I kind of want to know what I'm walking into. I love planning and predictability. Predictability is a huge part of like, and just like doing that.
Because you emailed me yesterday and I was like, D Sharpe, no.
Yeah, and you emailed my work email, and I responded to it because it was you. But if it was a student, I'll either schedule send the email so it's during an appropriate work time, or I will just say like, oh, okay, I know what I'm walking into, because I just hate like that, like the Sunday scaries feeling of like going into Monday. And so
I've never heard of it called that, but I love that, Sunday scaries. I love it.
It's totally a thing. But so other than that, I mean, I think that self-care, like, it really just depends. Like, I used to always think of it as like, oh, that means I need to do a face mask, like, take a bubble bath, or you know what I mean? Like, I used to think that's
light one of your 700 candles that you have.
701, or whatever I have. Yeah, so many candles in this household. There's one burning right now. So
I would be shocked, honestly, shocked if there wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to always think though that it was like that picturesque, like candle burning and a bubble bath and a face mask, like, but that's not always self-care for me. Like, sometimes it's playing Guitar Hero and like Wii tennis and like hanging out. Sometimes it's like spending a lot of money like on food or shopping, and like it's just sometimes it's sitting and doing nothing and just like letting myself rest, and other times it's like a go like travel, something. So I think like overall with self-care, like at least for me, it's like listening to myself and what I'm wanting, and that is caring for myself rather than like, oh, I have to like do a face mask, or, I have to do like this, or so I think that it's just, I wish I had like a better regimen or something for self-care, but I feel like I just kind of listen to like myself and what seems good at the time, if that makes sense.
Got you. No, it's kind of just sounds like you go with whatever your needs are in that specific moment. That like if your needs are to completely destroy a game of you said rock, what did you say?
Guitar Hero.
Guitar Hero, just completely, go off and get 100% on that. There's that. Or if it's just like you said, just sitting there resting and like not having to do something. Because I think that that's one thing is that in our society right now specifically is that like it's go go go. And like I think that with the pandemic, like it's definitely taught us that that's not something that's like longevity wise can't keep happening. So I think that even just sitting there doing absolutely nothing is still doing something, because like it's taking time for yourself, and like you had mentioned before, that capitalistic self-care is doing all these things that cost a lot of money when like self-care could literally just be, I know that you're from Boise, like you could go for a hike, so
yeah. No, absolutely, I definitely agree with that. I think it's like the go 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 mentality, like it can be fun, but eventually you just need to not go, like you just need to like, just hang out and just sometimes it's just sitting on social media, which I know isn't like super healthy either, but I mean sometimes that's just what I want to do for like an hour, just because I'm like, I don't want to put brain power into anything right now, you know what I mean? And that can be nice, or it's just watching a movie or doing something chill. So no, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. So the last question that I have for you is, what is one piece of advice you live by in your practice?
Yeah, so this is a really good question, and
I thought of it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is a really good question. I wish I had a better answer for this. Like I thought really hard on this one. I have like prepared notes. John and I were discussing before the podcast. I have prepared things for this as a planner that I am. Yeah, and I was just thinking about it. I'm like, there's not really like, a words or phrase or something that I like really like live by or kind of think about to go through my practice. And I wish that there was. I've read a lot of things in grad school, I mean, I'm sure that there could be, by all the theories and, we had like great, professors and other classmates and just experiences. But I think probably a piece of advice for how I live by my practice. I think it's just like knowing that I chose to be here. I think like for me, I like when I get choice in something, right? And sometimes you can feel stuck in a situation. And so just knowing that I chose student affairs, I chose advising, and I love it, right? And I'm choosing to continue to be here. I don't want to feel like I'm ever stuck, like this is, oh, this is it, or something like that. And even if it is, like, that's great. Like, I love it. But also that like, I'm continually choosing to do this job and to be in academic advising because I enjoy it. And when I don't enjoy something, then I don't have to continue choosing it. But I think that that's like something to keep in mind if like, as change is kind of going in that idea with resiliency, like, as changes and things happen, like if I'm not enjoying something, I don't want to ever feel like I'm stuck. So it's just like, I'm choosing to be here. I'm really enjoying it. And just kind of keeping that perspective and reframing for positivity, kind of like a theme of all the things I've mentioned so far. Just kind of thinking about that for sure.
Got you. Nice. So once again, this is an unscripted question, but I think that this could be the make or break question.
Okay.
Do you think that you could go, I would say a day, but I want to say a week without having anything planned, like just a week without planning anything?
Oh, no way. I mean, I plan out every meal I eat. I plan out like what I do every day. I have like a to-do list. I plan out, every advising appointment, all like for my prep for the appointments, especially for new student orientation. There's so much planning that goes into that. I don't even think I could go a day. It would have to be a day where I was like sick or something and just like on the couch, like, and that would not have been planned to be sick. And that would have just, thrown me off completely. But no, I don't want to sound like a totally crazy person, even though I know I am a little bit, but like, it just, it's nice to plan things. It makes me feel good. I know some people don't love that. Like hearing this, they might be like, "Oh, this is the worst thing I've ever heard." Like she does sound crazy, and I don't want to do that. And more power to them. But like, I love it. It makes me happy. It calms me down to have a plan about things, and I love predictability, love
Mhm.
stability, love those sorts of things. So no, I think that helps with the planning. So no, I don't think I could do it for a week unless I had
Gotcha.
pre-planned the week. I could not tweak the plans or something like that. But that's it.
I think at that point it would still be planning. So I don't think that that would count. But no, I think that that's like, I wasn't going to say anything after this, but I think that like, if it works for you, then it totally works for you. There's no reason to be like, I have to like think about this in a different way. Like if you're like, absolutely not, it's not happening, then it is what it is. So, but got you. Well, thank you, Danielle, or D Sharpe. I said that and I was like, I let that one slip, but I was like, shout out to Jacob. Uh,
Always.
um, but yeah, no, thank you. And I appreciate you. I usually send out emails like 3 weeks in advance. And I sent this one like a week and a half. And I was like, hey, are you free? Like, so I appreciate you being available for this. So, and thank you again. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Big fan, love the podcast. So thanks so much for the invitation.
yeah,
And yeah, it's been fun. So thanks so much.
yeah, no problem. And for everyone out there, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.